Episode number 15, Edward Kotanen.
It's gonna snow tonight. I know I will be liking it.
Welcome back to The Title Block, a podcast about Canadian theatre designers, their history, and their craft. I'm your host, Michael Cruz, and this week, I'm going to try to ad-lib the old intro. I have been reading from the script, and it's a bit stilted, and I'm going to try and, make it a bit more personable. Personable. See? That's why. A special thanks to Ms. Sue Edworthy, who did a fantastic job on the last episode, Disappearing Act, for doing my voiceover. I had a bit of laryngitis there for several weeks and couldn't speak. So my voice is back, which is, some people are kind of afraid of, but that's okay. We've got a new episode coming out to you right now with Edward Kotanen. Edward Kotanen is a set and costume designer who's currently living in Hamilton, Ontario. He's been around since the early 60s and has a great insight over the start of theatre in Toronto around that time, in Ontario in general. We had a great discussion, including a discussion about the late Jack King, who was a designer and Ed's former partner in the 1980s, who died prematurely, certainly, but after whom there is a scholarship named at the Associated Designers of Canada. So inquire with them about that. That's something that, as a young designer or as a beginning designer, you want to have access to. And if you want to help them get charitable status, that would be helpful as well. I wanted to update in this podcast, or the conversation I had with Jack King, I make reference to what I think is an apocryphal story concerning designer Michael Levine, who worked at the Met, who still works at the Met. But at the time I heard the story, there was an opera in which the only set element was a chair, and I attributed this to Michael Levine, and in the ensuing period, I can't find any evidence that I'm right. So I want to apologize in advance if I'm completely wrong. And if you know about this story, if you know details about this story that aren't available online, because I did a little cursory search, and there's no information about the outrage the audience felt in paying a $100 opera ticket to see a chair, along with, I must say, probably a brilliant cast in an opera that I couldn't remember the name of. So anyways, if you know this story, please let me know. I want to also remind everybody that show notes are available at thetitleblock.com. If you've gotten this off of iTunes, please go there. And there's a comment section if you want to yell at me, especially if you're Michael Levine and I have dragged you into something that is inappropriate. But I'm going to leave that in there, and you guys can sort it out in the comment section, or shoot me an email at thetitleblock@gmail.com. And another little boost, if you want to give us reviews on iTunes, that'll help people find us and give your accounting of how good or poor a job I am doing. And that's it. So that's the ad-lib portion over. Moving on, here's my interview with Ed Kotanen, and I'll see you at the end for my usual spiel. Enjoy. Ed Kotanen is a theatrical designer based in Hamilton, Ontario, and has been working for over 50 years designing sets and costumes for theater, opera, and dance. And instead of letting the cat out of the bag, I will let Ed tell his story. Welcome to the Title Block.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. So tell me where you started. Now, you started in the early 60s, you said?
I started in the early 60s. It really started in a strange way in high school. I was the only son of immigrant parents, the only child of immigrant parents, and of course, people like that were all expected to go to university and make something of themselves. Mm-hmm. But I really didn't want to be made into a dentist or an engineer. So it kind of worked backwards for me. I was artsy. I'd never actually done plays. I had attended plays, and I knew other people who had done plays, but I hadn't. But it still led to a conversation with the high school guidance counselor about going into show business. And at that time, there was no National Theatre School, and there were what was going on in Canada was kind of on a sort of genteel amateur level through English departments and things like that. There was something getting started in Edmonton at the University of Alberta. But anyway, this guy happened to have a personal connection in California. So he said, let me see what I can find out. And sure enough, I ended up at UCLA.
Oh, that's terrific. And where did you come from? Where were you born?
Thunder Bay.
At Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a big step.
It was a big step. Yeah. I had no idea even that there was more than one university in Los Angeles. So, of course, when I got there, I ended up at the wrong one.
Right.
So, but it was a terrific experience. And it was almost like going to a trade school. Right. There was a great deal of hands-on work. And there was an opera department there. There was fine art, but the fine art really didn't come into it. There was something that I sort of had to learn later. Mm-hmm. But certainly theater production was something that we did a lot of. And everybody pretty much, when they, in the first year undergrads, first and second year, everybody did everything.
Right. And
there were general auditions at the beginning of each semester, and if you got cast, you had to play the part.
Right. So this was just a general theater program?
It was a general theater program. Yeah. And the people who only wanted to do acting took English.
Right.
So they didn't end up having to run wardrobe or something or change plugs in the electric cage.
Right.
So, but I loved it, all of it, and it was certainly a great, a good way for me to learn because I learned by doing, like the way a lot of people do, and we had to take because it was a degree in applied arts. There were required courses in other departments. And most people, we did what we could, but we were busy making shows. So a C average was considered quite acceptable that way, because sometimes you would be on tour and miss the term paper.
Sure.
Or whatever. So anyways, that's what happened there, and it took 4 years. I never thought that I would stay in California. I didn't really feel very American. Not that I didn't enjoy being there, but it just didn't feel like home.
Right. What were the do you remember any of the instructors you had? Like, were they larger sort of figures that imprinted upon you down there? Or?
Not really. I think there were important figures who had moved to the States before and during the war. Some of whom ended up in California, and people who wrote textbooks, and a man named Melnitz, for instance, whose name might ring a bell with some people, who wrote a kind of a theater history book along with one of his colleagues there. There was a man named Ralph. I always wanted to call him Freud, but he was called Froude. Okay. And but he must have been part of that family somehow. And he was an important person to anybody who was an actor there. The design people they weren't anybody that I ever heard of or ever heard of again, but they were all very committed and very, I thought, very well informed. So they knew how to introduce us to all the things that we needed to do there, and which was a lot because everything was produced by students, and there was a main stage program in the big theater, and then there was another program in what was like a converted classroom, sort of a 3/4 round space, and then there were a lot of temporary buildings that were, I think, are finally gone now, but they were temporary for about 50 years, and they. One of them, or even two of them, I think, were small theaters that seated maybe 100 people or 75 people. And it was a one-act program that took place there, written and produced by graduate students. But everybody got involved in the actual production of these plays. And so if you weren't working on a main stage show, you were most likely working on one of those other ones. So everybody was always busy. Everybody was always running around with the scripts and all kinds of breakdowns and things. So it was a very active place. There was a radio television section, and the biggest, of course, was movie production, because they were right there. So altogether, I think there were about 400 students.
Wow.
At the time.
And when you speak about going to what you described as the wrong school, the right school would have been what? UC Berkeley? Was that the one, or was it?
No, the wrong school that I went to was University of Southern California.
Oh, I see.
USC, which is a private school,
Right?
And that's downtown. And UCLA is in it's not exactly a suburb, but it's not downtown. Yeah. And it was a very good experience. I had a chance to do summer school and do some TV stuff, which was lots of fun. And then I came back to Canada,
Right.
And came to Toronto.
At that point, did you know you wanted to be a designer, or was it?
Well, yeah, I
decided,
think as I said, we spent the first 2 years everybody doing everything, and after that you could specialize. So it was quite possible and expected that you would go to the director and say, I really don't want to be in the show, but I would love to do wardrobe or whatever it is that interested you at that time. So people had a chance to do a lot of. The undergraduates didn't do designing of those big shows, but they certainly did a lot of assisting, and building and painting and doing a lot of lighting, which was, it's always, lighting is always intense and labor intensive kind of job. But in those days, there was a lot of climbing of ladders,
Right.
and A ladders with extensions. So you were 30 feet up in the air, hanging lights and focusing and stuff like that. And the equipment was still resistance dimmers.
Oh, right.
So, which were great fun to operate.
So I've been told, yes.
So, and I really don't understand computerized boards at all now, because my mind still goes back to how those things worked.
Sure.
And it was amazing how many things they could actually do.
Oh, yeah.
With that equipment. But and it was a good experience to be working in a really big stage, because this was one of those large auditoriums with 2,000 seats and all of that. Not that was going to come my way, the minute I graduated, but I knew that it was possible to work on that scale. And so then when I came to Toronto, I seemed to manage to find bits of work here and there. I did some shows at Hart House, for instance, and I got a job at Malabar's, just helping them out at Halloween. And then they kept me on. And then eventually I met people there who one thing led to another, and that led to more work. So, it seems to me that always it's been a case of who you know.
Right. What year was this when you returned to Toronto?
That would have been 62 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And besides Hart House, who was producing theater at the time that you recall?
Well, there were some independent kind of producers around. There were coffee houses. This was all in the days of that kind of culture. The sort of beatnik culture of the 50s was transitioning into the hippie era, but not quite. So those places, there was the First Floor Club, for instance. There was the Pilot Tavern used to be on the other side of Yonge Street.
Oh.
And in that same building downstairs around the back on the street called Asquith, there was a coffee house, one of those places where it's all painted black. And,
Right.
And it became a theater from time to time. And I don't know who paid for it, but somehow somebody would collect the money, and there would be a play produced. And I know I did the lighting for, it was a 1920s expressionist drama called Machinal, that had Gordon Pinsent.
Oh, really?
And oh dear, I don't remember her name. Wonderful actress. She was only 19 at the time. And it was designed by a man from the CBC who himself was Central European, so all this expressionist stuff really rang a bell with him.
Yeah, it was right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, it was great. And I think he actually was a painter at the CBC, and he liked to have the opportunity to do some designing every now and then. And it was a good show, and it had a great deal of sound, as I recall, millions of cues.
Wow.
And people seemed to appreciate it. There were shows at the Crest Theatre, which that was the sort of the main kind of professional stage there. That was a continuing operation. So I had a chance to work there, but it was gearing down then. I think I worked there in a kind of its last 2 seasons.
Right.
So it was freezing cold in the shop.
Right. That seems to be a theme as well. On the title block, everyone tells us about how nobody heated any space except for the theater.
Exactly.
Back in those
Exactly.
days.
Yeah. And there, the opera was company was getting going more and more. They were touring as well as doing a season in Toronto. So I worked on several opera tours. I didn't go on any tours, but and I think they must have had a wonderful time taking these operas, because they went from Texas to Alaska.
Oh, right.
And all the way across Canada,
Wow.
doing whatever, Mozart, La Boheme, all kinds of things.
I guess this is in a time where the regional theaters really hadn't been established. So there was a kind of a need.
There was a need
to do that.
There was a need, and certainly there was there was very little opera outside of bigger centers, and which is true now too, of course. But no, I think they must have had a great time in spite. I mean, of course, it was exhausting, but somehow they were all young and energetic, and they could do that.
Yes,
and true. Canadian Players was another group that toured, and in a similar way, all over North America, doing. They often did Shakespeare.
Yeah,
and Stratford had started, so that was another source of employment. But you had to go to Stratford and live there.
Yeah,
so it wasn't that there was a real dearth of work. There was stuff going on, and we were kind of. There was a mishmash of people who had various kinds of training, know, or no training or whatever, but we all kind of worked together and managed to get these shows on.
Was the staff mostly Canadian? I know that in Stratford, the sort of tradition was to bring classical actors and directors and artists over from the UK, but were these projects mostly Canadian? I imagine the opera was a bit of a mishmash as well.
The opera was quite a mishmash, but the opera was quite Canadian actually. The ballet was it was run by Brits basically, because that's how it started with Celia Franca and people that she knew came over to work for her and with her to help her get it going. And she did really quite a remarkable job. But she had a lot of Canadian dancers.
Right.
Not Canadian designers very often. But I don't, there were, again, with the ballet, it's sort of, the show comes as a package. So if you're doing an Anthony Tudor piece, you use the original design,
right? Because
it works with the choreography. So it was there. It's mostly a question of reproducing and trying to be faithful to the original design, which of course most of the people in Toronto had never seen.
Right, so, of course, yeah.
And that people working on it had never seen it, so they just had to kind of hope that they were heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
But there was a chance to do mostly smaller works and often offbeat works.
Canadian authors, or were you doing international? I mean, that German expressionist piece is kind of.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of international kinds of efforts doing absurdist plays, for instance, UNESCO, that kind of thing. Because a lot of this, I think, was sort of driven somehow from academic sources. There were people who were treating theater as literature, at the university, and then they were interested in seeing how, what is a UNESCO play really like? It's interesting on the page, but does it work? Can you actually produce it? And so then somebody decides to try at the Bohemian Embassy or somewhere like that,
right?
And so then you get to make some masks and whatever, and you find out yourself how it works,
Yeah.
So there was a lot of kind of falling into these various kinds of situations. So it didn't feel like I was pursuing a career. I was just sort of, getting jobs,
Right.
and paying the bills, and all that.
Was there anybody that once you moved to Toronto you sort of glommed onto as a mentor, or did they? I mean,
Well,
would people even
yeah,
exist?
there were people. Like, for instance, I went to, I did a season of summer stock in Leamington. The theater was called the Sunparlour Playhouse. And Ernie Schwartz was the director there. And he went on to do a lot of work in Toronto. He was an American who came to Toronto and just kind of stayed. So he had what was called the Factory Lab Theater down on Queen Street. I think it was in an old. There might have been a Legion there or something. It was just not far, just past Church Street, I think, going east.
Yeah.
And he also worked at Ryerson.
Right.
So there was another kind of theater department, another program getting going there, and it was a place to go to do some work.
Right.
So I did some shows there with him, and he was one of those very well trained people who had gone to Yale. So he knew how to do everything.
Right.
And
Excuse me.
including writing and directing. And directing is really what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, but he was he was easy to work with because he had a good sort of visual imagination. So I could trust him to understand what it was that I was trying to do. You know? So.
Were you taught this? I mean, I imagine the answer to this is yes, but when you were down at UCLA, the communication of your ideas, being the paperwork, the drafting, everything else, was that pretty solid in your mind when you came to Toronto, or did you have to adapt it to local expectations?
No, I think it was pretty solid. Yeah. I don't think that I encountered anything that, for instance, in terms of drafting, I don't think I was making marks on a page that a carpenter didn't understand. I think there were some things that I was doing that were more common for architects to do or something like that.
Okay.
But it was pretty much everybody seemed to speak the same language. Yeah.
Terrific. And now this brings us into the sort of late 60s, early 70s, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Now, my knowledge of the Canada Council is a bit sparse, so you'll have to sort of correct me. But my understanding, in 1967, and around that sort of centenary, there was a sort of explosion of funding that came for Canadian theatre.
Suddenly there was a lot of money. And I don't know how much of it came through the Canada Council. There were other areas too, I think, that sort of cultural, I don't know, whatnots, well, there was a lot of building going on. Like what's now, well, the St. Lawrence Centre was built around that time. The O'Keeffe was 10 years earlier, I guess. Well, actually, no, I think it opened in 1962, the O'Keeffe Center. But that's when all those Jubilee Auditorium and all those kinds of buildings went up.
Yeah.
And companies were getting established, like MTC and Citadel and those kinds of places.
Right. That's the Manitoba Theatre Center.
Manitoba Theatre Center, yeah. So that Charlottetown got started basically with Anne of Green Gables. That was about 1964, I think. So there was a huge explosion. The country was prosperous, and there was available money, and quite a bit of it went into the arts. And there was still a lot of very important amateur theater going on.
Right.
Like Hart House was an example of that, but there were many of them. And one place where I worked a lot was in London at the London Little Theatre.
Oh, right.
Which was the Grand Theatre, which is the sister theatre to the Royal Alec. It was, and people claimed that the ghost of Ambrose Small, who built those theatres, that the ghost actually inhabited the Grand.
Yeah.
And it was a lovely old place with bits of old scenery that were left behind by touring companies. And so we were actually able to use some of it.
Oh, terrific.
Even there was a very good kind of a bay window unit with working sash windows and everything that was very solidly built, and it was just kept and probably got used every season at least once.
Sure.
Somewhere.
Why not, right?
Yeah. So it was a good spot to work because they owned the theater, and it had a union crew because it had been a movie theater.
Oh, right.
And so IATSE had jurisdiction there. So there were people, you didn't have to rely entirely on volunteers,
Right.
to actually get the show constructed, built on stage. So, and it was the kind of theater that I was used to working in because it was old.
Right.
So we
Sure.
and they did an 8-play season. They had 10,000 subscribers and
Wow.
all of that. So it was a very active, successful operation.
Was there a lot of crossover? It seems like today, while a lot of people come up through the amateur theater sort of stream into professional theater, there doesn't seem to be a lot of crossover between professionals working in the business today and amateur theater today. Was there a lot of crossover back then? I mean, they'd hired you, right?
There was, yeah. They certainly wouldn't have been able to manage to do a season like that without hiring. It wasn't that they hired one designer to do the whole season. It was usually 3 or 4, and the members of the London Little Theatre couldn't have coped with designing and building and painting and everything.
Right.
And as it is, they did an awful lot of it themselves, and really very well. I was amazed. So they had a long tradition behind them, and I think now there's and there didn't seem to be a sense of resentment that somebody's being paid to do what they're doing for free. But I found later through Theatre Ontario, they had various programs of hiring professionals to go to provide some instruction or whatever at an amateur company, and I found that if I was coming in to help them with a specific show, they thought that I was the hired help, and so then they didn't have to come in.
Oh, right.
So it didn't really work very well then. So I think it's again a different world somehow. Well, I think the difference is that they do it for fun.
Yeah.
And professionals don't. I mean, they hope to have fun, but that's not why they're doing it.
Yeah, I had an interesting experience. When I was transitioning out of the business in 2004, I was working out in Regina at the Globe, and I had just done a high school production for my old high school for friends of mine who do a lot of large productions, and I had lit it. And it was interesting, the
working as a professional, it was interesting to contrast the commitment I had to the show. Not that I wasn't committed to working at the Globe. Obviously, it's a professional contract. You want to be a professional. And I certainly was, working towards that goal. But the stakes seemed so much higher at the amateur level because people's egos were at stake. And there's a giant production. There's a lot of money. People are going to come see you on the stage. And so there seemed to be an energy there that was exciting and thrilling that didn't exist on the professional stage. It was a very curious sensation.
Absolutely, yeah, and you can see it, especially when at dress rehearsal on opening night, when it's a bit of a kind of bedlam backstage at an amateur production, and it's very quiet backstage in a professional theater.
Yeah,
like especially during when the stage manager calls the half.
Right.
It all just a hush falls over everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they all just kind of focus on what they're going to do, and that's it. Yeah.
Now, at what point? Now, when you came back from UCLA to Toronto, I imagine you were doing a whole bunch of different type of jobs. When did you start to sort of streamline into only doing design and able to make a career out of it?
Well, part of it, I think, was the amount of work that I did in London. Is it eventually meant moving to London to make it easier, and I was living there with my partner, who was also a designer, Jack King.
Right.
So we did these shows together, and so we did, in fact, do most of 2 seasons, I think. So I don't know how many shows, but the wonderful thing about London was that there was an opportunity to do Mother Courage or the Marat Sade, those kinds of shows that professional companies mostly can't afford to do.
Right.
They can't afford the cast.
This is a giant cast, yeah.
Yeah, and these people rehearsed the Marat Sade like the whole fall. Like they actually, I think, opened in January.
Right.
But they started rehearsing in September.
Right.
And they were so well set up that they could actually find a spot because there were 3 other shows opening and closing during that time. They were still able to work on that other one. And they needed the time to do it as well because it was so big, and they could then break it up into smaller chunks, and so everybody didn't have to attend every rehearsal. So it worked out. It was a job for the stage manager, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But it was a very good opportunity to do show after show after show.
Right.
And that's it just kind of led to more work because there were directors who came from outside. They weren't all members of the London Little Theatre. And so through them, it's possible to, make another connection somewhere else. And so it did lead to, I found that I never got any work if I applied for it.
Right.
It seemed that it was always a question of it sort of casually came along. I think one time I actually applied for a job and I got the job.
Right.
But usually people got work because of their previous association with somebody or other.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that the director-designer combinations were formed because then they learned to work together.
Yeah. And were there specific directors that you started to sort of work a lot with?
Yeah. There was Walter Learning in New Brunswick. There was Tibor Tibor Feheragahazi, who
Right.
was, he finally got his own theater at Persephone in Saskatoon. And so he was fun. I always liked working with him.
Yeah.
And he was very enthusiastic and very thorough, and took a lot of chances, which was great.
Right.
Yeah.
Was he an expat or was he a Canadian director?
He was an expat. He was one of those Hungarians who left in the when there was the uprising
Oh, right.
against the Soviets in the 50s, and he came to Canada and spent a long time. He spent a long time at Winnipeg as a stage manager, and then worked his way into directing. I think the first theater that he actually was able to call his own was Magnus in Thunder Bay. And in fact, I saw one of his shows there. I didn't do it, which was Hosanna.
Oh, yeah.
And this was like not long after it had been translated and was being performed in other stages and outside of Quebec, I mean. And people were worried that the audience was going to be offended by having this on the stage.
It's quite a play to bring to Thunder Bay, I imagine. At the time.
And no, it was a big hit. Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
So he managed to cast it with just the right sort of sympathetic people. So it didn't become a freak show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's terrific. Terrific. Now, you mentioned Jack King. I had forgotten that you guys were connected, and I don't know much about him. I know that there's a scholarship at the ADC.
That's right.
Is that right? Can you tell me a bit about him?
He's one of those people who came from the amateur ranks. He was a bit of an extraordinary type because he was from Chatham in Ontario, and the Chatham Little Theatre was where he spent a lot of time when he was a kid. And by the time he was 16, I think he was very busy working there, and then he became a school teacher. He went to in those days there were still normal schools,
Right.
and you could go to normal school for a year, I think, after you graduated high school, and he could become a school teacher. And then he found himself actually teaching in a one-room school. It seems so old-fashioned now.
Yeah.
A one-room school out in the country outside Chatham, where there were like 8 grades of kids.
Right.
So then he was back in the theater again, and then from there, I know he came to Toronto. He'd never had any formal training, but I think it was just in his blood.
Right.
And I met him at Summer Stock,
Right.
in Leamington, and so which of course is a perfect place to have a romance in Summer Stock.
Of course, I guess happened to all of us.
Everybody
at one
has
point at a time.
Yeah. So and we moved around quite a lot, working in Toronto and in Stratford. He became assistant to Leslie Hurry at Stratford.
Okay.
Who was a really quite an extraordinary artist, and did beautiful work. I think he influenced just simply by watching what he did. Even if you weren't backstage, just going to see one of his plays would have a great effect on any designer. And because he approached it like an artist. There were no technicalities considered at all. It was just, this is how I want it to look, how we're going to get there.
Right.
And
Did that kind of, not to digress too much, but that seems about an easy way to alienate the actor from the scene. Did he integrate?
Oh yeah, no,
performer
there was
well?
I don't think there was ever any problem with that. I don't know how what he did when he was in conference with the directors that he worked with, but he did a lot of theater work. I mean, he started off as an artist, a fine artist, and I think his first actual big job, maybe his first job, was to do a design for a ballet production of Hamlet with the Royal Ballet at Covent Garden and all that stuff. So he drew a picture, and that turned into the design.
Right.
So somehow, I mean, he must have. If he didn't have a feeling for the theater, he never would have done it. You know. So somehow he knew how to make it into actual working design.
Yeah.
And the costumes and the set were all part of the same picture,
Right.
as were and in the ballet it is a bit like that. The corps de ballet is kind of like a puppet show,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
That's right.
compared to performing in a play. But he quite successfully did plays, and the actors didn't feel like puppets at all.
Right.
So, and Jack seemed to get onto his wavelength really easily, and was able to think the way he thinks or thought, and so they did quite a lot of shows together over that time, and so then and he also. I can't remember how it happened now, but he did some ballets for the National, including Mad Shadows, which is it's a short novel by Marie Claire Blais, and Anne Ditchburn, who was a dancer turning choreographer, wanted to do this as a full stage production, and they did very successfully. And he also did Hedda Gabler ballet with James Kadelka. And he and I worked together at the opera school, at the Faculty of Music in Toronto, and various places. So he had quite a extensive career. Rainbow Stage of Winnipeg, and he's quite fondly remembered by a lot of people. So, which is why his name is on the scholarship.
Yeah.
Then,
When was that established, the scholarship?
Well, by 1990. He died in 87, I think. Yeah. So before the decade was over, I think it was established. Reg Bronskill was instrumental in getting it going
Yeah.
at the time.
Terrific.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, and with a bit of luck, we might actually get charitable status,
Right.
and then people can donate to it and get a charitable discount. What's that called?
receipt, a charitable receipt. Yeah.
A discount. Yes. Right.
Well, that's terrific. So let's just take this back again. So you have established yourself as a designer. You're getting all this other work. You're starting to work with these other directors across Canada. When was the first time you started doing opera?
Oh.
How did you get that opportunity?
Well, I was still in London at the time, and I had worked. I think it was like costume decoration and props for the COC. So I had some connections with the opera company that way, and I had actually been in the theater when the opera was being performed. So, then in London there was a man who had what was called the London School of Church Music.
Okay.
The Aeolian Hall, which was a beautiful little. It was a church auditorium, a church building that had a domed ceiling with stars painted on it, and a huge pipe organ. So the whole stage were these organ pipes, and he wanted to do Mozart. He wanted to do The Marriage of Figaro.
Right.
So I got to do The Marriage of Figaro. There wasn't much set because it was organ pipes, but there were costumes which I rented from Malabar's, and props that had to be collected and that kind of thing. And then he did it, which was successful. Then he did another Mozart opera, The Abduction from the Seraglio, which again happened pretty much the same way. And then I ended up in Hamilton, but I can't remember exactly why. Oh, I know. My friend Elsie was designing a show for what became Opera Hamilton. The opera here started as there's a big Italian population, and they have Fest Italia, and they brought over a whole opera company to do I don't know what it was. They did a couple of those, and then they decided they should produce their own. And so Elsie got a chance to do a couple of them, and I came to help her. So that sort of got me connected with Hamilton to some degree, and eventually I ended up working here for Opera Hamilton, coordinating the costumes, and then doing whatever else needed doing, because I was the only person who was called a designer here at the time, and I also worked for quite a number of times at the opera school in Toronto at the Faculty of Music, and that was fun. And also Toronto Operetta Theatre. I did a whole bunch of shows for them.
Are they still around? They're not still around, Toronto.
Yeah, they are. They just did a Mikado actually at Christmas.
Right.
So I did a bunch of their shows. So one way or another, there was quite a lot of operatic activity for a while.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's terrific. Were there any shows that you can recall that sort of signify your style or your approach to theater that you can recall?
Well, I always seemed to be good at doing things that were rustic.
Right.
I don't really know why. Well, I grew up running around in the bush in northern Ontario, so maybe there's a influence there.
Yeah.
One of my most successful shows was Fiddler on the Roof, which I did. Well, I think I did it about 3 times.
Right.
The best one was in at Rainbow Stage, and it's a sort of it can be quite a big sort of sprawling show, and Rainbow Stage is big and sprawling. So it worked out visually. I thought it worked out really well. It was a good show. You can hardly do it wrong, actually.
Right. Yes, it's very well structured.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and other shows that sort of take place in farms and fishing shacks and all that kind of thing. I seem to pretty easily make it work and make it appealing somehow and comfortable for the actors. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably because it feels tangible. It feels like it's handmade and it's warm. There's something about that. I remember somebody years ago asking me why did I paint the set brown, and I said, I don't know, because I felt like it. But when I thought about it, I realized, of course, I wanted it brown because it was so warm and inviting and natural looking, mm-hmm. So I think I usually want to. I try to make it look like the actors actually live there, mm-hmm. That it's somehow they belong in that environment, and it's harder if it's some kind of an alienating material, mm-hmm. But it depends on the show, completely. So. Usually the shows that take place in fishing shacks and farms are there's something kind of cozy and warm about them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You don't get your surreal fishing shack play.
Not very often. No, exactly.
That's right. That's great. Okay, so we were talking about, let's just talk about the Rainbow Stage for a second. Mm-hmm. Tell me, you were telling me earlier about a story about the sort of crisis the Rainbow Stage was in.
Yes.
Because I had thought that it wasn't around anymore. You're saying they're still producing.
Oh, they are. Yeah. They did produce big shows and quite successfully. Like it was a huge auditorium. It must have seated something like. Well, it was well over 2,000 people.
Oh my goodness!
In the park, Kildonan Park in Hamilton, or in Winnipeg, rather, right by the Red River, mm-hmm. And everything tasted of off all the time, right. because it was an outdoor theater, right. and the shows. I often seem to be doing the show that opened in early July, so that was mosquito season,
right,
and it was also a problem for lighting because it's an outdoor theater.
Yeah.
So there was no point in planning any kind of scrim effects until the second act.
Right.
It's dark. Yes, it never got dark enough. So Jack Shapiro was the man who got it started to begin with, and very successfully. But I think he had a lot of he had personal problems of various kinds, and I think there's some kind of a problem with confidence. I guess because he eventually was found to have embezzled quite a lot of money from the company, like $200,000 or $300,000.
What year was this? Around?
This would be in the 80s. I'm not exactly sure when in the 80s, but it was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. I'd say kind of 85, 86 in that area.
Yeah.
And he ended up in prison. He ended up at Stony Mountain Penitentiary with a shortish kind of sentence, but nevertheless in penitentiary. Mm-hmm. And huge scandal and all that. And the company had to try to get re-established somehow. And while he was in prison, he met another prisoner and allegedly tried to convince this other prisoner that when he got out, he would hire him to do damage to the production manager who had ratted on him to begin with. Right. And so then there was another reason for him to stay in jail, because this, of course, got out. Anyway, he did finally did get out. And interestingly, the board hired him back again to produce another version of Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, wow.
Which we had done exactly 10 years earlier. So as I was saying, we were all brought back from the dead to to do this show again.
Right.
Many of the same cast members, and me, and Ted Corral. That's the name of the costume designer I was mentioning earlier in Winnipeg.
Oh, great! Yeah.
Korol. So we were all there, and it was a good show, but it wasn't as good, of course, as it was 10 years earlier.
Yeah, of course.
It was different.
There was 10% less embezzlement going on.
Much less embezzlement. Yes,
right.
Exactly. So, but the company did survive all this, and they're now doing, I think, one show a year instead of two.
Yeah. And tell me about the changes to the stage. You say it was originally a band shell, kind of.
It grew out of a big band shell, so originally the seats were all on a flat floor, and there was this platform and the band shell, and so of course, whenever there's a stage, people want to do more than just do a concert. So it grew into a theater, and they built walls around it, and then eventually, and this is, I think, what Jack was credited for, is to actually build it into a permanent structure. So now there were tiered seats. It was all a sort of a huge cement platform, and the Rainbow. It was actually a big curved wooden arch that was originally part of the band shell.
Right.
And it still was there. And we always had to design a huge kind of, it was like doing a book cover, a big false pros.
Oh, right.
Because otherwise you could just see through to the wings.
Right.
So that became a big integral part of every show, and it was important because you were really aware of it during the first act,
right?
When it was so bright. So then they got a lot more money from somewhere, and they rebuilt the stage completely. So now it has fly lines and a pretty tall tower, and the stage is still very wide and deep and high. So there's a lot of room there to do a big show.
And how did you solve the problem of a lack of a fly tower before? Like, what were the kind of solutions you guys came up with these large musicals?
A lot of these shows were wing and drop kinds of shows. They're designed to be performed that way. So you still have to have a 4-stage set while you're changing something behind the drop. So usually there was a show curtain that was part of the show, but it was further upstage, and so there were acts that took place in front of that, and it often was a divided curtain that tracked off to each side. Sometimes the curtain just tracked in from one side all the way across. Sometimes there were big roller drops. They were tricky to operate.
Yeah, well, you said it was like a 60-foot.
Well, yeah, it's very wide.
Yeah.
So I know I did one of those for Hello, Dolly, and it worked. But we all had to keep our fingers crossed that it was going to continue to work.
Yes, yeah, because there's no center support, right? It's just you're just rolling from the outside.
Well,
edges.
I had to design it so that it would have a rope in the middle.
Right.
There was a loop of cord that held up the middle. Otherwise, it would have sagged.
Yeah.
And not, it would have got snarled. So there were various solutions like that. For fiddler, I designed hard pieces of scenery that tracked on. So, and they came on sort of further and further and further, all from the same side, so that there was a kind of a diagonal alley that led up stage right, for instance. So those kinds of things were kind of unique to that theater, because usually you don't have to, and so then you don't design those kinds of things. But they seem to work very well, and almost every show has some kind of a big house in it. So that always had to be hidden, like up center. There needed to be some kind of a curtain that would open and allow the house to come down. So you ended up with a kind of a scheme that worked for that theater.
Yeah.
So, and I'm assuming that that's still what they do, except now they can fly in the scenery.
Yeah.
The trick is, though, that it is open air, and there you can get quite a big draft.
Right. Yeah, and the 60 by 30 foot drop is a bit of a big sail to put up there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. Oh, God. Okay, well, let's talk about your process a little bit. So you are hired, you get the script. Where do you start? How do you get inside the story and start thinking about it?
I read the script, and about 3 times or so. It's about that. And at first, when I first read it, I don't take any notes or anything. I just read it, and then I start to pay attention to the locale and who the characters are and why they're there. And around that time is when there should be the first meeting with the director.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work that way, though, because the director's process timeline is really different from the designers. And often designers need to have their specific information way earlier. And sometimes it's like too early, but it has to get into the process of being manufactured. So it's a little bit tricky insisting that, today I have to know what I'm doing, because otherwise it's going to be too late.
Right.
And nobody else cares.
Right.
It's
all on you.
So somehow you have to convince people that what you've worked out so far is really a good idea, and that this is how we're going to do the show.
Right.
I don't find that the directors that I've worked with object to that. They understand the process pretty well. The hardest, I think, are actors turned directors, who an actor's process often starts at day one in the rehearsal hall, and so they are unused to doing that kind of preparation so early, unless it's some technicality like a accent or something like that. They don't really need to. So they usually those people need a little bit more convincing, but with a little bit of experience, they understand again the process of working and how it goes. So after we've had this first meeting, which is usually doesn't involve any pictures. It's just talking about it and taking notes and that kind of thing. Then I go away and I start doing sketching. So I find the best thing to do is to have a sketchbook that has actual pages that you can turn. And so then there's a sort of, usually it's possible when you go back to have another meeting, it's possible to show the director the process, because it evolves page after page. And they can follow it even if they don't have strong visual imaginations. And you know, some of them they're really concerned with the word and the idea, and the physical image is not as prominent in their heads. So. And of course, the word and the idea is what it's all about. So we all have to support that.
Yeah, of course.
So there comes a point where I feel that I'm comfortable to build a model.
Do you find a lot of people, or some people I've spoken to so far, like to start from the model because it is a three-dimensional object?
Yeah.
Does it ever happen to you, or do you always start from, or most of the time start with sketching in the 2D?
I don't know. I think if we were purely visual artists, there would be some designers who are sculptors and some who are painters, and I think that follows through to the finished scenery anyway. Costumes too, I think, kind of work that way, so it depends on the show. But I find that I'm probably better off sketching first.
And does the director ever see those sketches, or what do you choose to reveal? In the process?
Well, I can reveal all of the process really to the director, and unless there's something there that is going off in left field and that it's just a distraction, then I wouldn't. But otherwise, it's good to show the process. Sometimes the director says, "So what was wrong with what you showed me 2 pages back? I like that one."
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then you know, so I can revisit that idea and say, "Well, you know, maybe you're right. I shouldn't have discarded that idea so quickly." So that allows the director to be part of the process,
Right.
Then, and because they're not usually actually there with a pencil or a brush, so then building some kind of a rough model, like a really rough model with bits of tape and bits of paper or whatever, is usually the next step. And building the final model really kind of is in step with doing the drawings, because I don't really want to build some complicated staircase and then change it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so.
yes, exactly. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that by the time you get to that point, the design is pretty well set. With costumes, it's a little bit they're more fluid usually, because you can't really finish it until you actually have the actor in the dressing room trying it on, and then you work out the final details, because you can't anticipate, unless you know that person very well. You can't anticipate how things are going to change when you find that one shoulder is an inch lower than the other, whatever it might be that makes you make a shift. But
how much input do you take from actors as far as what they should look like?
Oh, well, I try to involve them. The problem again is it depends on the situation where you're working. But if you're all coming together to do a show at a regional theater, we kind of all arrive around the same time, and by that time the design is done. So if there's some kind of a again, if there's a technicality about a costume, I want to get that settled as quickly as possible.
Right.
Having to do with whatever pockets or whatever it may be. And if I then otherwise, I think you have to kind of use your intuition as to if you think that your thinking about the character is going to be different from what they're thinking, it's a good idea to attend some rehearsals
Right.
pretty early and just see how it's going. Because depending on the show, if you're doing modern dress, you can make some changes if you get the information early enough. So, because there's no point in having a conflict about what does the character look like.
Yeah.
Because finally they're the ones who have to go out there and do it.
Yeah, sure.
So, and I don't really care whether, they wear their jacket open or closed.
Right.
And,
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or even what color it is to a point,
Yeah.
and, if they have wearing a hat, they can always take it off. But they have to be prepared to do that and know where they're going to put it when they take it off. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And as far as communicating with the rest of the crew, so after you've got the plans together, the actual technical drawings, how do you communicate paint treatments? How do you communicate that kind of subjective information?
Well, paint treatments, usually that comes, that's on the model. Unless it's something that needs to be explained further.
Right.
And then you do an elevation that's a bigger scale.
Right.
Or offer up research material that, if it's wallpaper, for instance, if it's real wallpaper, then fine, you just go shopping, you buy the real wallpaper. But if they're painting it, then you show them samples of the kind of thing that you're after. And the same with woodwork and all of that. It's almost, if you do that, you end up with something that looks kind of like an interior decorator's plot,
Right.
to put together a room. Which is fine if that's what you're doing, is making a room. But usually you're not really doing that. You're suggesting things.
Yeah.
And most of it ends up kind of hidden in the corners anyhow. So
Right. Right. Or the lighting designer turns the lights down.
That's
You can't
right.
see it anyways. That's terrific. Now, I had another question about specifically that, though. What kind of is there anybody or any kind of style, art style, etc., that acts as a primary inspiration for you, or do you really take it show by show and find that period's information to be instructive?
Show by show. I try to keep it simple, but it's amazing how easy it is to complicate it all. And the older I get, when I go to see shows, more and more shows seem to be over-designed.
Right.
To me.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's just my taste has changed, or are they really over-designed? There were quite a lot of pretty heavily designed shows 40 years ago, too. So,
And when you say over-designed, what does that mean? Like too many pieces, too complex, or?
yeah, I think too complex, sometimes just too busy,
Right.
too much stuff. So I quite like going to see shows where there's just a couple of actors in a chair, you know.
What about audience expectations? There was that classic story of, I think it was Michael Levine, who put at the Metropolitan Opera, who designed. It was supposed to be a grand opera, and there was a set sponsor, and he put a chair on stage, and everyone freaked out that this was what we're paying for. You know, what about those kind of expectations?
Well, I think somewhere. I mean, if you have to go around justifying that, maybe there's something wrong somewhere. It still needs to somehow look complete,
right?
So that you don't feel cheated. You don't feel like there's something missing from the experience of attending the show. So if they're going to react like immediately, the curtain goes up and there's a chair, and they all boo. Maybe they should wait a bit and see what's going to happen.
That's your responsibility as an audience member, I think. Sure.
But if it can look like arrogance of some sort, perhaps, if you're not giving them something. But I don't know. These days there are so many things. There are a lot of things that can be done with lighting that don't require a set designer's input in the sense of. Well, I mean, you have to have something to light, of course, sure. And maybe you want something other than just blacks. And it may, from the audience point of view, it might still look like blacks, but it's probably something else.
Right.
Right. You still need to have a set that works for the piece, whatever it is that you're doing. So I'm assuming that if the audience had waited longer for this chair to get used, they would have found out why it was there to begin with.
Why that choice was
looking like that. Yeah.
And how about collaboration with other designers? Like, what do you require? What do you need to do your job? And what do you feel you give the other designers to enhance their ability?
Yeah. Well, what I try to do is to make it as clear as possible what it is that I'm trying to achieve.
Right.
And that's especially important, of course, for lighting designers, so that we're on the same page. Especially if we're looking for a certain kind of effect, then obviously we all have to work together, and the director has to understand it, because finally, when you get into the technical rehearsals, that's where the director works out the cues,
right,
with the stage manager, and so if he doesn't understand, or he or she doesn't understand what you're trying to do, it'll probably go in some other direction. And by then, it's probably too late to make any changes. So, the important thing is to be open and keep all the avenues clear for communication, and so that you don't end up with the wall color the same as the leading lady.
Right. That's always embarrassing. And how about now? One final question on kind of the design process. Working in opera, you're often, some might say saddled, but often forced to sort of adapt whatever you're doing to whatever's rented, either the costumes or the set.
Right.
And how do you respect that original designer's purpose while doing your own job?
Well, if there's a rented set, sets are what often come as sort of a design. You can always go to the rental place and get other costumes.
Right.
So costumes don't usually arrive as part of the show, but this set does, and with any luck, the props have been properly put together.
Right.
But very often the set dressing does not arrive.
Right.
Or depending on how old the show is, it may be missing by that time, or who knows what. So you can make changes to that set because it still has to work for your circumstances and for the size of your stage and all that. You may have to leave something out because there's not room for it.
Yeah.
And so it's really a question of practicality. The original designer almost always gets credit for the set design, but it probably doesn't look the way it did originally.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so. And I don't think it's really expected on that kind of level. Like if it's Opera Hamilton renting a set from Louisville, it's that Louisville set has probably made the rounds of 6 different companies by then,
Right.
and there's a contract that allows the original designer to get some kind of a fee plus credit for the design, but there isn't anybody who's actually supervising it, and it's expected that it's going to be adapted to fit wherever they happen to be.
Yeah. Right.
And costumes, as I say, even if there is a set of costumes at Malabar's, for instance, they have whole operas that they keep together. They still don't necessarily all work because it depends on the size of the bodies and various kinds of considerations come in there that means that you're in fact probably pulling some clothes from some other show to insert into this set of costumes, and you hope that it's not going to be glaringly obvious that they're from another show.
That's right.
Yeah, or sometimes I've been lucky enough to be able to design half a dozen new costumes for principals or whatever, and then pull the chorus.
Right.
And that works out really quite well then. And in the end, the singers are all grateful as long as they're comfortable.
Right.
You
Yes.
know?
Yes. You don't want to get the soprano in too tight a corset. They're
No,
gonna
no,
really-
and especially the shoes have to be.
Right. The shoes. We always forget about those.
Yeah,
I have to
no,
walk
that's-
around for an hour in those things.
Well, yeah. See, that's the awful thing about being a costume designer is that half your budget goes on their feet and you don't even see them. You know.
Right. I never thought about that before. So tell me about teaching.
Well, I never did it very formally. I taught design, costume design, and set design. There's in Toronto. There's something called the, if I remember the whole title, the Academy of Merchandising and Design, International Academy.
Oh, right.
And it mostly has to do with fashion and interior decoration and that kind of thing. They did have a costume design course. It didn't last very long because they didn't make much money on it. But I taught costume design to a group of people, mostly young women, who had, there were no prerequisites. So some of them had no background whatsoever of any sort, and some of them were quite advanced in their skills. And I found it was actually really interesting. It was interesting for me to actually have to articulate what the process is, and you know, how do you do it? How do you get the information, and what is required? And I ended up finally with a sort of a questionnaire that I gave them. And I said, if you could answer all of these questions, which weren't that many, like 6 or 8, you will know everything you need to know about this play.
Right.
But now I can't remember what these questions were, but it was about the studying the characters and understanding who they are and what their situation is, or their social situation at the time, and all that, so that then they can go ahead with confidence and actually design costumes that make sense for that particular piece. And the same kind of thing happened. I taught for a while at Humber for set design. And those people had no background whatsoever. They were usually very young, just out of high school. And some of them, I swear, I could barely read.
Right.
They certainly couldn't write.
Yeah.
And I had to find ways to get them to understand what it is that they were trying to do, because some of them wanted to make doll houses, and some of them wanted to make weird sculptures and whatever.
Yeah.
It was actually a long uphill struggle to get them to do one play.
Right.
But I found that what worked was to get them to choose the play. And it was interesting how many of them liked blood relations.
Yeah.
You know that show?
Yeah, that's Lorca, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it speaks to all...
Lorca, sorry. Blood relations
is Sharon Pollock.
Right.
It's Lizzie Borden.
Right. That's right, yeah.
And this was quite a compelling subject for all adolescents, I think.
Yes, yes.
So they really liked that idea.
Yeah.
And so when they had a play that interested them, which meant that they had something to say, then they began to be able to envision it.
Right.
So it wasn't deciding that you were going to do Cymbeline or something, meant nothing to them. But a play with this kind of a situation, they could really relate to. So, which of course is good information for anybody in the theater, because you want to have plays that the audience will relate to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I found that teaching was a very great way to learn.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Finally.
All of a sudden you have to articulate your process to somebody
who
doesn't know, right?
Exactly, yeah. And trying to make them understand that what they're doing, trying to understand why what they're doing isn't going to work, that they're going to end up in a pitfall, is also an interesting kind of a problem. Because a lot of them really don't want to listen to why it might not work.
Right.
Because they have this idea, they know they want to pursue it.
Yeah.
And which is great if there was unlimited time, but there isn't, Yeah. So it's all part of show business. So they I don't know how many of them might have ended up in the business. I doubt that any of them ended up as designers. But they did kind of begin to understand what is a stage, and kind of have some sense of scale and that kind of thing, so that if they're working in the theater, they might be able to make a choice if they're faced with having to choose some furniture for a set or whatever. And I think it's important for everybody to, whether they're actors or not, to actually end up on the stage, so that they really know what it's like.
Yes. Yeah, until you've been there, you don't really kind of appreciate the sense of panic that can overtake you, I think.
Well, yeah.
Or the sense of owning an audience and things
exactly,
like that.
Yeah. All that kind of thing is the more experience you have, the better off you are. So it would be good if carpenters had to work in wardrobe.
Sure. Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's just in the last kind of 10 minutes, let's talk about the Associated Designers of Canada. This is the theme on the title block. We've talked to several people who've been involved in the organization since, the 70s or 80s. And there's always this chat about what happened in Frances Dafoe's basement and about the start. We know in previous podcasts we've talked about CBC being a locus of the impetus, I should say, for the association. But why don't you tell me your early involvement and then what happened in that basement?
Yeah. Well, I think I learned about it because I was assisting people like Les Lawrence and Murray Lawfer when they were working at the opera company. And then I would go off to do some show somewhere, and I would talk to them about the problems of trying to get a decent contract and that kind of thing. And there seemed to be no standards with regard to anything really,
Right.
For what I had to do or what they had to do. And so they suggested that I should come with them to Frances's house, where there had been a series of meetings about starting this association, and the basement was a pretty glamorous basement. Actually, it's on Elm Avenue in Rosedale in Toronto. Frances was married to Mr. Melnick. I can't remember his first. Norman, I think, his first name. And he was a lawyer. And she was a costume designer at CBC. You might remember there were a lot of skating specials. And
Right.
she did all of those because she was, in fact, an Olympic skater. And so anyway, the basement was really kind of like a den.
Okay.
And it had very comfortable furniture and bottles of scotch and cupboards and stuff like that. And there were a number of people would meet there and talk about how to get this off the ground. And this happened quite often. I don't know how regularly, but over a winter, maybe 3 or 4 meetings would take place. I don't know who, Les Lawrence might have been the first president. And he's still in Toronto. I think he'd be worth talking to. So what happened in the basement was exactly that. It was like a little cell,
Right.
planning this insurrection,
Right.
which it was an insurrection because the CBC types wanted to make sure that their future was not controlled by the management of the corporation in terms of their identity, and they did not want to get lumped in with all the other union members. They were still union members at CBC, but they didn't want to get lumped in with the carpenters and the painters and those other trades. They felt closer, of course, to directors and ADs and people like that.
Yeah.
But they didn't really belong in that area either, so they wanted to have their own situation, their own association. So they eventually they ended up with as a local of the union at CBC. So they didn't need ADC at CBC, but they did need ADC when they worked in the theater.
Right.
So it continued to grow, and pretty quickly there was quite a strong connection with Quebec then, and people used to come from Montreal also to have meetings in Frances's basement. So I'm sure they had to buy a lot of scotch.
Yes, I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, that's interesting as well. I mean, the Quebec has a very sort of strong artists union, which is a union. I think it's a closed shop in Quebec, is it not? At least,
Yeah,
I think
there is the Union des Artistes is there. Yeah, exactly. At that time, though, they didn't have. It was instrumental in helping them get organized, and then and for a while it was a nationwide organization with a bilingual mandate. Excuse me, but eventually the French part of it was really unnecessary because there was in fact a Quebec Association.
right.
But I don't know that it's necessarily like Ontario is not officially bilingual, but there's certainly a lot of Ontario French, and there's Manitoba French, and other places, and certainly New Brunswick, that are not covered by the group in Quebec. So it may be worth revisiting at some point. Depends on how the theater business expands.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Now, just about, I'm going to sort of to compare then and now as well. What has changed in the landscape, I guess, from the late 60s, early 70s to now, as far as the ADC goes, and what more specifically has the ADC grown as it should have, and what difficulties has it faced?
Well, I think it has grown. A membership of course, any association is only as strong as its active members. But it seems to be in pretty good shape right now in terms of having a very strong executive and a generally active membership. It hasn't. I don't know that it's grown in numbers all that much, but that depends on the amount of work that's available. There was a lot of work in the 70s when so many theaters were getting started, and there were bigger budgets, there were longer seasons, more shows, and so there were a need for more designers.
Sure.
And then since then, I think things have fallen off a bit. Some people think that we've lost a lot of ground since then, but I don't know if it isn't really. I think in terms of professionalism, I think the association has improved a lot, and there is a pretty good, clear contract, lots of understanding of what the standards are, minimum fees, and all that kind of thing that never used to be in place. So I think designers are more respected as professionals than they were in the past, and rightly so. I think they are, in fact, more respectable as professionals now.
Do you think it was easier or more difficult to make a living when you started in the late 60s, early 70s, or than it is now? Or
I think it might have been easier because there was more work,
right?
And also I think because in those days, and not only in our business, but really in a lot of places, you could walk in off the street and get a job,
Right.
remember a book called Late Nights on Air. I think that's what it's called. There's a novel.
Oh, I don't recall.
Elizabeth Hay, I believe, is the author. And this book has to do with working for a radio station, the CBC station in Yellowknife.
Mm-hmm.
And the leading character lands in Yellowknife, having run away from some unpleasant situation somewhere else, and needs a job, and goes to the CBC and says, "I need a job." And they say, "Okay, well, do you want to do this show?" And I mean, it was more or less like that.
Yeah.
And that was in the 70s. It takes place in the 70s. And in the 70s, you could do that.
Yeah.
There was a need for those people, people who were adventurous. I think the world was more amateur then. Now everything has professional kind of restrictions, actually.
Sure.
And everything is subject to litigation and all that kind of thing. So if they hire you now and you don't have all the qualifications and something goes wrong, whoever did the hiring is going to get blamed.
Right.
It won't be your fault. It'll be their fault.
Right.
You know?
Right. Is it coming to the point that I have a friend, just as we finish up, I have a friend that I met over Christmas who is currently enrolled in a graduate program at Yale, in the theater program, for technical direction. And her experience down there has been basically, it's an engineering degree. You're becoming a theater engineer. You have to know that structural, that steel structure has to, be built to a certain standard to carry this much weight in this, temperature range, things like that. Do you think that kind of skill set is required these days as a designer to have that kind of knowledge? For liability anyways? Like you're not going to design something that's going to be unsafe.
For liability, yeah, because I can think of all the platforms and the turntables and all those things that I designed. And all I knew is that if I stand on a piece of plywood and there's a 2x4 over here and another 2x4 over there, I know that it's not going to sag under my weight.
Right.
So it was basically intuition and guesswork that I was doing.
Yeah.
But it's not engineering.
Yeah.
But it worked. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever got killed.
Yes, that's good. Absolutely. And then one final question. Would you, somebody who's just leaving high school, looking for a career, is theater something you would recommend for them? Or
I wouldn't recommend it unless they're driven to do it. Because there are plenty of there's a lot of competition. Look at all these graduates from all these programs, even now. Most of them are not actually going to have careers in the business. They'll maybe start off and they'll get sidetracked somehow. So I think you have to want to be a theater artist. It's different if you want to be a sound engineer. Because there's a great need for really good ones. So you should do it. But if you want to be a designer, an actor, a director, a writer, somebody who kind of originates the work, nobody's going to, they're not going to hire you to do it just because you want to.
Right.
So you're going to have to really want to.
Right.
and you have to have something to say somewhere along the line,
Right.
Especially, of course, if you're an author. But really, everybody who is involved in the art of the theater needs to have a pressing need to do it. Otherwise, I don't see the point, because you don't make much money. The most money I ever made in my whole life in 1 year was 25 years ago, and that was only about like $42,000. That was it.
Yeah.
So you can't expect to make much of a living.
Yeah.
You can live modestly, but you can't. I'm amazed that people are able to raise families. Some people do.
Yeah.
But usually that involves teaching.
Yeah. Seeing some other avenue. Well, that's great. Thank you so much.
Oh,
that was
pleasure, Michael.
terrific.
Thank you.
I'll see you at last.
And that was my interview with Ed Kotanen in Hamilton, Ontario. Up next will be a great conversation I had with puppeteer Ronnie Burkett about his extraordinary career, so don't miss that when it's out. The music for this podcast is PodSafe music from the band 1990s called See You at the Lights. You can find them at roughtraderecords.com/the 1990s. Please go to iTunes and give us a review. It'll help get the word out about this podcast and share the history of theatre design in Canada. And you can follow us on Twitter at The Title Block CA, on Facebook.com/The Title Block Podcast. You can send comments and requests by email to thetitleBlock@gmail.com. Feel free to share this with your friends, colleagues, students, and teachers, or listen to it while you try to evade your producer whose bat-wielding thugs are out to get you for outing him for stuffing the Dora ballot box. I'm Michael Cruz, and we'll see you next time on The Title Block.